it's going to be the younger kids that figure this out. And we're just, our trades are dying, but they'll become more DIY and more maker spaces. And those maker spaces will spawn a whole new generation of builders and designers and, the people that got passed up because they didn't have a college degree. Now they have access.
Welcome to the Hidden City Podcast. I'm Grant.
And I'm Doug, and we're here to share some of the incredible stories and people from Oak Cliff that you might not know.
We're going to sit down with some of the visionaries, craftsmen, and business owners who have shaped Oak Cliff into what it is today.
Oak Cliff is on the south bank of the Trinity River, a few miles south of downtown Dallas. While technically it was part of Dallas, it was its own city for a long time, and it still has that independent spirit.
We'll dive into the history and the spirit of this place, exploring the different challenges and successes that defined it.
This is The Hidden City, a podcast about the people and the stories that make Oak Cliff extraordinary. Welcome to this episode of the Hidden City Podcast. We are very excited to have friend and Oak Cliff longtime person, Gary Buckner. He is the founder of Stash Designs, and Stash Designs and Gary have built so many amazing places in Oak Cliff that we love to visit. Places like Wild Detectives, Eno's, Davis Street Espresso. He even got to help us out at Waxspace and some of that stuff too. We were actually partners in Waxspace, which was fun. But yeah, we're excited to have you on the show, Gary. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Looking forward to this.
Gary, thanks for chatting. We're also partners in Tyler Station, which is another fun part of our connection together. How long have you been here at Tyler Station?
Since day one, I guess 2017.
Nice.
January 1, we moved in and started actually setting our shop up and cleaning and fixing things. And
so you were here in the early days.
Still in the middle of construction, but, we fought through that. And eventually got our space set up, and we have about, 30,000 square feet. Helped design some of the layouts and the cages, or what we call cages, which is the storefronts, and do whatever we can to help out around here. So
Gary's was, like you said, a partner in Waxspace.
Yep.
He's kind of got his fingerprints all over Oak Cliff. You Stash Design, I think, has a really cool mixture of art and craftsmanship, but also a lot of reused materials. Can you tell us how that sort of style came to be with Stash Design? What inspired you to start making art that way?
Yeah, I've always had an eye for old things. Just anytime I see something old or, with some sort of architectural value or, just design value, that, I feel like a lot of the older things that were made, tools, houses, they were made with love and with someone's hands, and they took time. And so they have a lot more character, and they're more interesting to me. So, growing up, I would find things and build things. And one of the first pieces of furniture I built was just some wood off of a job site, some ballasts from Reed, I believe, from an old staircase, and I made a table. That kind of got me thinking, and every time I had a chance, I'd pull materials off job sites and turn it into something. Years later, after, when I was in college and down in Austin, I was doing tree houses and different things like that. And I met an older guy, kind of an old hippie that knew everything about furniture. He was a gemologist, but he also could build anything. And he enjoyed finding people with talents like myself that were artistic and kind of entrepreneurial. And I think he saw something in me, so he kind of latched on. Plus, I had my own shop at that time. So he started helping me design furniture and really opened my eyes to where to find materials. So one day he kind of kept holding back where he was getting all the materials we were using until one day, and he took me to a tile store. like, this is where you're getting it, you know? And he's like, yeah. And then we go around to the back of the store, and there's a big dumpster back there. And he's like, go ahead, jump in and grab them. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, just, there's the wood we're going to work with. And it's literally these big boards bolted together that hold granite and marble and stuff like that. So I get them out. We go and pull all these bolts out and start making a bench for this illustrator in Austin. And we end up making this amazing, beautiful bench out of this wood that came right out of the dumpster, which had been probably in Brazil prior to that, deep in the rainforest where they're cutting all this marble. And that really just got me thinking, you know, about all the waste in America and in general, how we cut down a tree that's 500 years old and process it, and it's gone, and it can't be, you know, reproduced for another 500 years. So that really made me, you know, have this drive to go and find more of this stuff and start exploring other avenues to find it. And then I started, you know, making different furniture with it. One of my first jobs was Eno's. So upstairs at Eno's, they asked me to do some furniture up there, and my mentor and I went all around all over Denver, got all this wood. I planed it myself, cut it down, joined all the tables, glued them, finished them.
Wow.
By the end of that, I was ready to get out of Denver in general. So I packed them all up and drove down back to Dallas and installed all the tables at Eno's, helped them finish out the whole upstairs with shiplap and other materials we were reclaiming from around the city. And then that led to more jobs like that and more jobs that, you know, that kind of style was really popular at the time, using older wood. You know, I use less now of the older wood, but it's other materials that we try and capitalize on and utilize in our design process. But I would say my design and my, you know, inspiration comes a lot just from the pieces that I find or the materials I find.
Yeah, we Kelsey and I are lucky to have a live edge table in our living room that you created. And I think you said it came from East Dallas, just like a tree that fell down. But that idea of having things and reusing things is something that has drawn us to Tyler Station. It's a 100-year-old factory in Oak Cliff, and it could have easily been razed and turned into something else. But I think we're all attracted to this thing in Oak Cliff that is like, hey, there's age to it, there's history to it, and then maybe even reuse that can be brought into these scenarios. With Stash Designs, do you feel like that's something within Dallas or Oak Cliff that like is totally unique that you're bringing, because Dallas is such a new city? Like it's always like new, but like maybe you found their success in Oak Cliff because there's some of those shared values, or?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think Dallas is a very new, clean, you know, they don't really like old things, and you can see that through our preservation and conservation is, you know, we'd rather just have a new thing than an old thing. But I found value in the history of things. I'm a history major, so I got a history degree at UT and a minor in business.
Grant,
so
we finally got a historian on the show.
I know,
Grant's
begging
been like,
for
we
it.
need a history person.
I
on
wouldn't
the show.
call myself a
You
historian
got
by
a
any
history
stretch.
degree.
It's more than most.
It's a very random assortment of history from all over the world and time
That's awesome.
periods, but I just like that, you know, reading about that stuff.
Yeah.
I've collected arrowheads my whole life and all kinds of artifacts, and so yeah, that ties into the mentality of Oak Cliff, the people of Oak Cliff. Oak Cliff draws this a specific type of person that enjoys reuse and enjoys the recycling, upcycling, and so it was really easy to sell that idea through our design process. And you know, Davis Street Espresso is probably the best, or one of my favorites, along with actually Wax Space as well, because there's already a lot of character here. The mahogany doors, the room we're in right now, when I walked in it the first time, it was full of file cabinets and drawers of old plans from the building and tons of binders with random stuff in it. And the door was an old safe door that we pulled out. And so just seeing these spaces and then not trying to change them a whole lot, but just work around what's there, you know. And that's where you see a lot of the character come out in Wax Space is, you know, the glue left on the floor and the, you know, it just kind of fades in and works with everything that's already there. So you kind of have character already built in. You're just really cleaning it up and making it to where it can be cleaned and used. And then the layers of the design that come on after that are fun to see as well. You know, you see these other designers bring their touch to things and the layers that I don't typically provide. So it's really fun to see that develop. And
I love that, Gary. You don't seem afraid to like use a difficult material or kind of think outside the box. I mean, at times when I know we've walked around together,
Yeah.
you've got your like notepad and you're like, here's what I'm thinking, and you'll like draw this sketch, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like how did he come up with that?
You have like a different way of thinking about stuff.
Yeah.
Like I remember when Grant's mentioning like we were thinking the tables out there, and you're like, well, what if we had a crank system that the tables could like get pulled up into the, and we were just, the way you thought about it was so different than how we were thinking about it, but also you could see your artist kind of mind coming into your design process, and like, meaning like you're problem solving, like creative problem solving in a way that, I don't know, that takes a muscle to do. Like it, yeah, not to hijack the question.
No,
But yeah,
well, I
it
was
like,
going to say, I mean, do you find the artist side of your work, do you find other outlets for that outside of your work with Stash? Does that kind of get implemented into your day-to-day at Stash? How do you nurture that? What does that look like for you?
yeah, that's a big part of why Stash started. I mean, I am an artist ultimately, and I have constant ideas flowing through my head and like wanting to create and create and create. And so, you know, when I see something, I want to do something with it. And typically I'll, the way I see myself, and I didn't, you know, for the longest time, you don't realize the way other people think until you start really, you know, get older and you learn more and more about people. And, you know, being in the design world, I've learned that, you know, some people think in words, or they see totally different things in their head than what I see. And I kind of see in a 3D vision, but then ideas kind of just constantly come. And so trying to capitalize on that and use that to help people get something cool for their space, you know, and that's kind of the art that I've created through Stash. But ultimately, I don't really, you know, that's what's hard as being an artist like me is like typically an artist is a painter. And I don't, you know, the art world always is drawn to paintings, yet you have all these different, you know, mediums and ways that art can be created. And now, you know, it's changing rapidly with AI and digital print. And so the way I kind of see myself as like an artist, but an engineer. So, you know, in the building side, I've grown up doing all that. So how do you bring that art to the engineering side of it? And, but I've been lucky to be part of so many different projects that I've gotten a lot of experience to help do these design projects. And, you know, that's kind of where I, you know, find my creativity flourishing is in the design. But I also paint at night, and I do all kinds of different things on the side that not many people know about. You know, I collect things and go to estate sales and use different kind of mediums to paint, and starting to get to the point where I'm going to actually, you know, push that out there as well. I haven't really promoted my art like I wanted to because I've been too busy growing Stash and kind of getting taking on too many projects.
Right.
So my goal now is to scale it down and focus on the art and start putting it out there. And so
In your art, like paintings a lot, or is it like, what is it?
It's
What does it look like?
paintings,
Yeah.
mixed media, furniture. So, I'll take mud that you typically put on walls and I'll put it in on a canvas and then put color with that and make textured paintings and trees made out of the texture. I'll take wood pieces and screw them and layer them together and put yarn on that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Different things left over.
Reminds me, have you heard of the guy Theaster Gates?
don't think
He's
I-
a developer artist type. I mean, I think Grant and I were talking about this earlier. It was like, man, Gary's like this Renaissance man, kind of in Oak Cliff doing these things. He kind of reminds me of you in that sense, but like he's in Chicago, Southside Chicago. But
Yeah.
he's like, his art is, we'll have to show it to you after the show. It's
Sure.
amazing, but it is
Love to see it.
building material kind of stuff too sometimes. And so
Yeah.
like he's like expressed himself in those ways, and it's awesome. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's
It's one of the unique things of growing up in the construction industry. So, like, anytime when I think of doing something, I usually think about around construction materials. But after doing this for 15 years, any industry is game for something you need to make something. And so, but now everything's changing. And that's really where I'm excited to see what happens in the next 5 to 10 years with 3D printing. And that's where I'm kind of pushing, because I can't stay in the past and do woodworking and metal if I want to actually make an impact on people. And, if you really want to make an impact on the younger communities, you have to bring them up and show them what happened and how we did things, and then bring that together with how they're going to do things, And they're basically going to be designing on computers and printing things by hitting a button. And that's happening so fast that, I don't know, it's exciting because I'm going to really get into that,
cool.
go deep into that with my art and design, but also trying to bring in some younger kids to see, how can we develop the future? What is the future of housing? And realistically, like, how can you really dive into that and make a difference and fill the gap that's about to happen where all the trades drop out?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's a big wave coming of something, and I love that you're excited because it sounds like you're like, hey, I can see how some of the things I'm doing now probably or did for years, maybe I won't bring that with me into this next evolution of my business or kind of where it goes. But you're also interested in like excited to learn new tools, which is kind of rare, I think.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
There's a lot of people that are just like, I'm going to do it the way I've always done it. I don't want to, change anything. So the fact that you're excited is cool, I think.
Yeah, I think you got to shake things up, just like we did here.
Yeah.
This was when I originally was thinking about Wax Space with you, and Doug was the first person I think I talked to about it. And it was, no, there's no monetary, not from Doug, but from everybody else. There's no money in it, but there's community. And what's more important is community than money. And so if we can build the community, the money will come. And that's where I think we all get lost, is thinking about the money side of it before the community. And so, I could have gone another way, a lot of ways, and made a lot more money. But I found that the Oak Cliff community, and you guys and Monty and Jason and Amy and Matt and Stacy and all these other different key factors that kind of pushed Oak Cliff, I just find a lot of value in that. And I feel like that's really, rewarding to see other people succeed and do their own thing. And
It takes
and
courage.
try and be part of that.
Yeah, it takes courage to like create stuff and build businesses and go after things. Like
Totally.
it's not to say it's easy to just sell out and go like make money somewhere else doing other things, but there is a part of that that's like oh, it's nice when there's other people doing this as well.
Yeah.
And like, it's like, hey, this guy's crazy. This guy's crazy. Like, this is.
Well, that's why I got you guys at
yeah.
one end of the building doing
Yeah.
crazy things,
I know,
and I'll
I
be
know,
at the other
I know.
end.
We can all be
so
crazy together.
Y'all can have 5 businesses there. And I'll
Yeah.
have 5
there you
businesses.
go.
Well, there is a balance there. I think this is an issue. I was talking with somebody about this last night. The desire to like create art versus like make a profit. And so often in business, you're kind of faced with like a dichotomy. Got to do one or the other.
Yep.
And
How do you keep your soul while still doing a business? Like,
right.
yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's a good question to ask, because I think there's a lot of people that get in a business relationship of some kind, and then they like find out one person's interested in the art, or define that however you will.
Yeah.
One person's interested in the profit, and then like they just are like, okay, well this is not going to work
Yeah,
because we don't
yeah.
see eye to eye on this. But
Yeah, you got a great point there. And like, what is art? Is it making money? And like, if you look at the scene of art, and that's kind of like, I'm having an art show in November with a couple local artists here at Tyler Station. And, you know, I've looked around Dallas, and the art scene revolves around the buyers who aren't here in the summer. And then it revolves around, you know, who has the most social media followers. And it's not really about the art. It's about the following of the art. And, you know, the way the artist has grown their following and expressed it. But I think the art gets lost a lot of times with that. And a lot of people don't get the opportunity to show their art because everybody's focusing on the one person with all the followers, or the one who's getting the most of attention. And so like, I want to create here is, you know, an art series where we can bring in local artists that don't have followings, and, you know, expose their work, and have a group of people that can come see that, you know, there's a lot out there, and it's not all about money. We're not, you know, just trying to make money on these events. We want to actually just expose these people to show and express their ideas.
Right.
Maybe we'll sell some of the stuff, maybe we won't. We don't, but that doesn't matter ultimately.
Yeah. Man, I want to go back to this part earlier. You said like the trades were dying. That like got me a little bit, because what do you mean by that? I know you're talking about the future, and that's maybe the negative side of this a little bit.
No, there's a
But
whole.
yeah, paint that picture. What does that look like? And that change that's coming.
Well, I kind of realized, like, meeting Johnny over here, who's one of the makers in Tyler Station, who does 3D printing, and watching him do this every day, and how it's like he's continually making a new thing every day that's like literally impossible to do without a 3D printer that fast. So when you think of the scale of that and how fast that is developing, within a 10-year period, you're going to have them making things for you in your house. You're going to order things through your 3D printer, and it's going to be made as like a household item. So if you can just imagine, like, you know, I can now design something and have it printed out within minutes or hours without knowing any trade, you know. But how does that apply when you go to houses and foundations? And so that's how there's going to be this massive turnover in the trades, because now they just 3D print in all the electric, all the plumbing. So if you don't need electric and electricians and plumbers to do all that, you really just need installers. And it's just such a massive, with AI and 3D printing, the world is going to change so rapidly. I don't think we really know. I think that's what people fear, but I don't think they should fear it at all, because it can fix so many of our problems easily.
yeah, it's a tool that, you know, if you embrace the tool, you can use it in a way to support your work. You can make life a little easier at times.
Yeah.
It's like a double-edged tool,
Sure.
I'm sure. There's always dangers to it, or
Yeah,
problems.
there's always bad things that people can create.
Right.
Imagine prosthetics, printing in someone's finger and being
Yeah.
able to actually move it and
Yeah.
putting a motor in there. Like, that wasn't even imaginable years
Right.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unimaginable, like 50 years ago, or, you know, however long ago. And now that's like very much
Now
reality.
people are doing it in their bedroom.
Yeah.
So
What's interesting though is like I think there is still that designer's touch on even in that world. I mean, maybe we get to the point where like our Tesla Optimus robot is doing
Is
all the
helping us.
designing,
Yeah.
but like there's a part of me that doesn't believe that will happen. It seems like Gary and people like Gary are going to be building that reality alongside of those machines. It doesn't seem like that can happen independently, but I don't know. I'm curious.
me, along with the younger generation, it's not going to be me. It's
Right.
going to be the younger kids that figure this out. And we're just, our trades are dying, but they'll become more DIY and more maker spaces. And those maker spaces will spawn a whole new generation of builders and designers and, the people that got passed up because they didn't have a college degree. Now they have access. Now they can put their ideas out there, and they don't need the college degree.
Well, and that's some of the question behind the question, I think, was even like this idea of vocations and trades. Like the trades are dying, but I think there's so many people that are like college, whatever. Like maybe,
Well,
but
it
there's
applies in some ways,
it applies in some ways. Not to say don't go to college if you want to, but like the trades is always, and I think too, even some of our friends that have been like, hey, I might not go to college. I'm like, well, go learn under Gary. Like he's doing amazing things, or Sean Springer, others like that. It's like there's people doing stuff that you can, if you put the time and energy into, you can get behind and learn. And so I think I feel like there's like two things happening there. But what I'm hearing you say is like, those trades are just going to look different. Like it might be 3D printing, or it might be,
it'll just be more systematic and more
Yeah.
Lego. Everything will be kind of like Legos, putting,
bunch of Minecraft.
exactly. That's actually exactly who's going to be creating. They're already creating it digitally,
Yeah.
and they're going to be able to do it, manually at some point or in real time.
What's your advice to a young artist or entrepreneur who wants to build something that they think will last in Oak Cliff or Dallas in general?
I would say just get out of the house, get away from the computer, and go find, people to teach you hands-on, trades. And if you really want to learn, depending on what you're trying to build, you need to go and study, from the ground up how to make that, work. The way I approach anything is like through, the sun breaks things down in water. And so if you're building a house, you need to make sure that you shed all the water and build it with materials that don't break down in the sun. And, that's where we're getting into this whole world of new materials that are coming out. And so you always have to explore and learn. Like you can't ever say that you know anything about or know everything about whatever trade you're in. And so you can always make something better, and as technology develops, you can make it better and better. And so, like I was saying earlier, don't get set in your ways. Just try and explore new ideas and listen. A lot of people get in their own way and like think, well, no, my idea is this. It has to be this way because it's the way I think it should be. But what I realize is I need to, listen to the guys on the floor that are building it, and listen to the client, and listen to the engineers. And you have to take all that information and put it together, and then assess your idea and make sure it'll work that way. So I would just tell younger designers to just explore and learn and always be learning.
You mentioned earlier too, you feel like they're going to be behind the computer a lot. Like something I heard from you is just like get out too from behind that and try to find some of that real, not that the computer's not real, but like be outside, be with this material, be like learning from people in some way. I think that's something that you definitely have to offer. And as you're saying, some of these trades or things are becoming less and less. That's going to be more and more valuable. It's like, hey, here's someone who's made reclaimed wood furniture or whatever for 20 plus years or however long it's been. That's going to be important for them to seek out, I think, too.
Totally. I think we've disconnected from nature to a point where it's like affecting our mental health and our ability to connect with other people. And then you have a whole generation of kids that haven't really left their rooms or been, all their life is behind AR or whatever. And so, if you never have those experiences, you're missing out on so much of life. And so, that's why I like using these old materials and things, because you can't get that character and feel and look. And so, yeah.
And it's increasingly disappearing.
It is.
So I think we've talked about this on the show, I think, before, but the idea that as we get further and further away from nature, like you said, we're getting further and further into an artificial world of some kind, either with materials or online. There's this like whip back of like a desire for natural things, and because eventually it's like an elastic pool, like eventually it's too tight, it breaks, and then people are like, no, I need something real again.
Yeah, experience.
Yeah,
like what's an experience in your head is great, and it's great to experience those things, but going to an actual country or going out to a lake is a way different experience than going to a lake in a virtual world. And so
Vision Pro.
yeah, and so you got to get out and try things, feel it, get hurt sometimes, and that's
Vision Pro.
Yeah.
I don't know a single person that has one.
Yeah, I haven't put one on yet.
Oh yeah, I mean,
we
I
might
do
be old for that.
the Apple Vision Pro. Yeah,
I think I would just get sick.
No,
Well, maybe that's one of those tools, Gary. You put that on, it helps you like think through stuff.
It is.
I don't know.
I need to try it. I
Well,
need to get out of my
Doug,
box.
We have a Meta Quest.
We do.
And we've used it many
We
times.
love fishing in it. It's great. But fishing in Kid Springs is probably okay too.
Yeah. You took Otto out there the other day, didn't you?
I did. Threw some lines in.
It's a little harder to catch fish in reality than
Oh
in
yeah,
virtual.
yeah. There's a lot of nibbles, and that was about it. Trying to make sure like no hooks got thrown into us or anything. But man, this is a good conversation. I going kind of focusing us to Oak Cliff. I mean, we talked about some of these restaurants and places that you've helped create so much. Are there any that you found to be like your absolute favorite project, or any stories from, so many years being in Oak Cliff that kind of bubble up or rise to the surface?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, in the beginning, there were a lot of fun projects in Oak Cliff, and I would say, to date, my favorite is definitely Davis Street Espresso. Working with Shannon was great because he is a owner-operated concept. He's there every day. He's working the counter. So he really knew exactly what he wanted, but he also wanted to let me express my artistic ways of designing. And so he was integral in helping develop the space, develop the ideas. I would go to him with them. He'd, tell me his thoughts on them, and then we just go with the flow and make it happen. And so I really like how that all came together, because it was truly reusing a lot of things. The ceiling tiles on the front of the bar, the coffee, handles all over the place, the reclaimed wood on the walls, just a lot of, intricately designed things. And I, looking back, probably didn't make any money on those types of projects, but they were fun to do. They were, we were creating new things that had never been seen. And so even to this date, I feel like that's probably one of the most unique designs. And
I mean, you could see your personality in it so much too. I think that's Shannon giving you the freedom to kind of show that in this. I mean, and it's everywhere, even from like the kids' corner with the puzzle, like kind of art piece almost, even the tree that's there, and like
it's a great
fun.
palette.
Yeah.
And it, even though maybe you didn't make a ton of money on it, it's pretty legendary.
Yeah.
And what you built there. I mean, we were there an hour ago.
Yeah.
And it's it's the
It's
same
lasted.
old good vibe. Yeah, exactly.
Pretty well.
It stood the test of time for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, Wild Detectives, all of the little restaurants in Bishop Arts, and watching Bishop Arts and being part of, the original Blues Bandits, and you know, me and Mike Dilger were. Somehow he convinced me to do it with him, I think, and he decided he wanted to get a large pig head, and so we set up, and then he brings a large pig head and plops it down on the table, and so immediately we had lines of people coming over to our table, and the next day I think we were in the news, in the Dallas Morning News, and the big pig head and us in cowboy hats, and
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's epic.
it was a fun event. You know, being part of all those original Mardi Gras events, and
Yeah.
you know,
Special.
you really saw the neighborhood come together and like
Yeah.
create this little community, and you know, work around all the development, and you know, there's so many things going on here with gentrification, and you know, but everybody was, you know, the way Oak Cliff developed and has gone has been pretty inclusive overall with the communities, and I think that's what makes Oak Cliff great, is it's very inclusive with the local community.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's it's those well, we are partial. We're obviously being
Yeah,
involved
yeah.
in Go Cliff nowadays, but love the like history of some of those events and how it seems like almost everybody has a moment they remember from one of those
Yeah.
events that they were like, oh, I remember when I was at my first Bastille Day, or
For sure.
went down to the Mardi Gras parade and happened to see it and fell in love with Oak Cliff, that kind of thing.
And it's still going. Like
Yeah,
like
they're still
the Oktoberfest. Like we're starting to see that with some of the people in this neighborhood over here in like Elmwood, Wynwood stuff. They're starting to feel those moments a little bit, and you're like, it's cool. It's cool to have that go on and go on.
So Gary, you've gone from you do a lot of creative projects, and especially you did a lot early on, sort of custom projects. And you still, I'm sure, do some, but I feel like a lot of your business too is bigger commercial clients as well. So how do you navigate doing, working with one small company or something to a big company that needs a whole different set of skills and has a whole different set of needs? How do you do that?
I don't know, honestly. That's probably one of the hardest parts of my job, is navigating expectations, and it's been really tough because you're always, you know, you build one thing, it's never right the first time, and so it's really hard, and that's kind of where we've hit this, you know, point in our business that we're kind of scaling down the one-offs and looking more for the, you know, personal projects and development projects and things that we can do more of our own personal design. Yet we still, you know, the way where I am at now is like, I like to do the design stuff, but I only want to do it for friends and family, you know, and people that need it. Like if I see a need and someone that really I want to help out, then I'd like to do the boutique type restaurants and stuff. But ultimately, for sanity, I can't build one-off pieces of furniture a whole lot anymore, and so we've kind of scaled that down just because it's such a hard process. And now we're focusing, like I was telling you, on the future of wellness design, you know, and trying to really get into this whole other vein of something that I really haven't discussed much, but wellness design is going to be, you know, more about how do you go in a space and feel better just by being in the space. How do you create energy and different spaces that actually help you? And so that's in its infancy as well. It's kind of like the 3D printing thing. It's like we're realizing that there's all these things around us that we don't know affect us.
Right.
And so I'm really trying to explore new design avenues and futuristic design things to see where my skill set can fit into those, you know. And so working with a girl named Marissa that started a company called Wellness Design, and now she's working with SMU and some of the design people there. And so we're really looking at this, you know, big picture of how do we create a space that re-energizes you, makes you feel better, gets your mental health in the right space. And one of the ideas is just a room that, you know, maybe Google or Apple has, that you go in and you kind of sit and meditate and, you know, listen to music and do whatever makes you feel good. But you have the features in this room to bring the lighting down to a light you like, and grounding mats to help you feel like you're outside. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm going, you know.
Cool.
And that's, you know, it's fun. It's hard to say no to the projects because I've typically never said no. But now I feel like I'm in a really good spot with Stash. You know, it's good with Raising Cane's. We do a line of furniture for them. We've been doing some trailers on as well, and that's been nice to do. And now we can kind of explore other avenues and see where we can really make an impact for the future. And that's kind of where I am with Stash.
The wellness and side of things sounds exciting. I haven't heard you talk too much about that, so
Yeah.
I'm excited to learn more about that. But I think the impact of architecture, design on your, like, the subconscious impact, it's like, that's a really interesting topic to me, because I think there's a book, I don't know, I think it was called like Design That's Slowly Killing Us or something like that came out years ago. But it's this idea that, like, the way things actually are designed have a dramatic impact on you, whether you realize it or not. Like, and you've seen, like, the architectural evolution of even the United States, like, away from Art Deco to, like, you know,
things with personality, or
Yeah.
just like the fluorescent light cubicle office kind of
Exactly.
thing. It's like, hey, that can actually not feel. I mean, I've heard so many people at Wax say, I just love the plants. The plants make me so happy. And you're like, oh, that is space, like, design.
That's
to an
energy.
extent. Yeah.
That's an energy
Go.
that you don't even realize is there.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, really what I want to create is this process. It's probably like 7 to 10 steps. And it goes into what we talked about, Grant, in the past with the cold plunge and the oxygen. So if you imagine, like, going through this process where you go in the room, you get cold plunge, do a short workout with oxygen, go to the grounding mat, do a little sauna, then you go into the room where you can re-energize your mind. So you've gotten your body to a point. Now do your mind and get your mind in the right point. Then maybe your mental health's a little better and you can go work and feel better to do whatever you're doing for the day.
Gary, we're just talking about all of this. This might be a 7th LLC, not
There you
7,
go.
actually.
Well, and I know
but
you guys been talking about the workout side.
yeah,
But this other wellness side came in recently, and it's
Yeah.
been something that I've really been exploring. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for us
more
to kinda
saunas in the
collaborate.
U.S. I'm ready for it. I feel like the Scandinavian people have that figured out. But
I think a lot of other countries have figured out how to do wellness better than us, and I think America needs some help in that way.
Yeah,
A lot of people
Yeah.
do.
Agreed with that. Well, Gary, thanks for chatting with us. Thanks for coming on the show. Come back sometime soon.
Yeah.
We want to hear more about all the projects you're working on. But
Thanks for having me.
Man, appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Hidden City. We hope you discovered something about Oak Cliff that you didn't know. If you enjoyed the show, I hope you subscribe to it on YouTube and then follow us on any of the podcasting platforms. Also, if you enjoyed it, please share with a friend. And thanks so much for tuning in.